So I was told, yes, today, I know this is an Olympics show, but I want to read you a quote that'll get us into this show from the great Bill Belichick on his practice today. If it rains, it rains. If it doesn't, it doesn't. If it's hot, it's hot. Then that's what it is. So if we talk Olympics, we talk Olympics. If we talk basketball, we talk basketball. That's what it is. We talk sports. I'm Stephen Rabinowitz.
I'm Jay Kaplan.
I'm Anthony Strait.
I'm so glad I got that correct. This is On the Sports Lines, our mishmash of episodes. We will talk Summer Olympics tonight, but we'll be talking other things too. We don't discriminate. On tonight's docket, the insane MLB trade deadline, the massive double-stuffed Hall of Fame class in the NFL this weekend, and oh yeah, that little thing in Tokyo that's winding down. But before that, we see that awkward closing ceremony thing when some Japanese representative hands off the torch to a French one for the Paris 2024 games that we'll all laugh at on Monday morning. Let's start with the story of these games. Simone Biles was the face of these games because of her massive success and high expectations 5 years ago in Rio. And unless you've been living under a rock, or since this is the Olympics, Mount Olympus, you know that this has been the reason why Simone has been in the headlines in 2021. Her case of the twisties and her overall anxiety caused herself to withdraw during the team competition, take herself out of the all-around that she was heavily favored to win, and it led only to one more medal in these 2021 games, and that was in the last event she competed in, the balance beam. Most people are commending Simone for her actions. It was brave to take herself out of events, but others are not so nice. I hate social media. Guys, what are your opinions on what's going on in this situation? Let's start with Anthony.
Well, 2 days. Number one, I think if they ever gave a IQ exam to qualify for being on social media, 95% of people fail miserably. That's pretty much, let's get that out the way. Because like I said, I don't want to get too much into the negative side because we've seen a lot of it.
Okay, I will.
Weeks. And yeah, and the hypocrisy that's been passed around, but that's just the point. And I think I've been open in the past about my struggles with mental health and dealing with that. And you know what, Simone, we forget that these athletes are human beings too. They're people at the end of the day. And Simone Biles, not just her, you've seen Naomi Osaka, you've seen Michael Phelps recently. No allowance. Somebody that Rabbi will talk about later on tonight. Also talked about mental health. And the thing is, though, is a lot of these, we don't see the pressure and so many things these athletes go through behind closed doors. We just see what's going on in the public eye. And in the case of Simone Biles, she was dealing with anxiety, and then you found out in the last couple of days that she had a death in the family also that impacted her decision as well. Look, I like to quote Jimmy Johnson, who, by the way, is going to the Pro Football Hall of Fame this weekend. He said that the mind control the body, not the body control the mind, and he's right. I mean, we've seen it in the past with Kevin Love and DeMar DeRozan. Mental health is it's becoming a bigger issue in this. At least nowadays in this country, especially, we're still dealing with a pandemic. We got to deal with a lot of isolation and not seeing our loved ones and friends for a very long, extended periods of time. And you understand that these Olympics are taking place at a time where Japan is really going through a really bad surge of cases as far as COVID. So there's just been no fans. There's been no family. There's been no real pageantry that we've seen in years past prior to the Olympic Games, and I'm sure that it has taken a toll on some of these athletes to not be able to talk to that close person, that family member, or to be able to or to not be able to interact with other athletes like they normally would in years past because of COVID restrictions. In the case of Simone Biles, she's just the latest, and for us athletes coming forward and especially their mental health, and we're going to see more and more of this, but because it's becoming more and more of an issue nowadays, I think and I commend her for at least bringing it to the forefront, because look, when you're a gymnast, you have to be mentally into what you're doing, you can seriously injure yourself, especially with the routines that Simone Biles has been so used to doing and that we have known her to do, especially on like the balance beam or even the floor exercises.
And the vault.
Like I said, yeah. And these are, and you understand, it takes years and years to practice these moves and it reminded me when I heard about the twists. It reminded me of Steve Sachs. And your Yankee fans, you remember that we had a case of the Epps, and Rick Ankiel as well. I remember vividly that playoff game, and he couldn't find the strike zone, and you just understand that. And unfortunately, you have the idiots on social media who just can't see past the public persona and the athlete, and well, you make X amount of dollars, but it's like, hey, look. At the end of the day, I go to therapy, and there's so many others. And it's because mental health is becoming more just as vital as the physical aspect. You realize that if the mind is not as strong, that the body shuts down is the rest. Marshawn Lynch said it best: take care of your chickens and take care of your mental. And he's right. I mean, in his own way, he's absolutely right. And the mental aspect of being not just an athlete, but a human being, just getting through everyday life, becomes more and more challenging nowadays. And I commend these athletes for being public faces, bringing it to the forefront. I was just reading earlier about some of the Japanese athletes getting hate comments from their own home country because it's the Olympics that many people feel like shouldn't be going on, and they're being affected. So it's not just something that's going on here, it's worldwide. And I don't think it should be a taboo subject any longer. I feel like this is something that should be talked about, should be addressed. And the more the conversation gonna open up, I think the better we'll have an understanding of how any individual can kind of go through day by day what they struggle with, and how to approach it. Because if there was a such thing as a cure for mental illness, there wouldn't be a need for therapy. But that's not the case. And like I said, I think it only moves the conversation forward.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much all of what you said, Anthony. And I'm probably gonna, revisit some of the things you've already said as I get into my thing here. But first things first, guys, and all of the trolls who eviscerated Biles across social media proved three things to me. One, they are not now, nor have they ever been, an elite level athlete, as they have zero idea what it takes to reach the level that Simone Biles has. The work, the sacrifice, the pressure, none of it is for the faint of heart or mind. Two, they've never had any type of mental health issue, because if they ever had, they'd have more sympathy for Biles than they've shown. And three, they're selfish as hell with their "how dare she quit on the team" attitude, which I read as "how dare she not suck it up and perform for me and the rest of the country? How dare she let us all down like this?" It is sad, after everything we've gone through as a nation, as a culture, during the last year and a half of this pandemic, and trying to make some headway in removing the stigma attached to issues of mental health, to where more people of all walks of life feel more comfortable talking about it, that there are still people out there who treat these issues with such disdain. I know it's hard for some sports fans to accept Biles looking to take care of her mental well-being, even at the expense of her athletic legacy. After all, sports history is littered with stories of athletes fighting through all types of adversity, refusing to let pain, doubt, or the opposition keep them from winning. Michael Jordan's flu game, Brett Favre's Monday Night Football performance while grieving the death of his father, Kirk Gibson hitting a World Series game-winning home run when he could barely run, Willis Reed running through the tunnel to return to play through injury for the Knicks in the NBA Finals. But all of those stories happened in a different time. We live in a new world where mental health is, as Anthony put it, as important as physical health. And the two are often very much connected for elite level athletes. Biles found herself fighting internal demons that caused her not to trust herself physically after she nearly landed on her knees in her first rotation on the vault. Remember, the vault is the apparatus where she has a routine and a move named after her. Because of all this, she chose to step back because she didn't want to ruin her team's chances at a medal. And she never felt like this before, where, as she put it, the mental just wasn't there. I got to say, I was happy to see the outpouring of support for her from the athletic community. especially from fellow Olympic legend Michael Phelps, who, as Anthony noted, has been very forthcoming about his own mental health struggles as he was racking up world records and gold medals during his Olympic career. USA Gymnastics issued a statement saying, quote, "We wholeheartedly support Simone's decision and applaud her bravery in prioritizing her well-being. Her courage shows yet again why she is a role model for so many," end quote. The Athletic's Marcus Thompson II wrote a terrific piece on Simone in the July 28th after all this broke. And this passage kind of stuck with me. Quote, "With Biles, courage can be presumed. What she is revealing is an execution of it that simply doesn't fit the culture of sports. Sports culture dictates that Biles is supposed to power through the doubt, face the anxiety, and deliver us a moment for which we can endow her with the special honor we bequeath to the courageous. But what Biles did was look right in the face of a foe we all know very well and don't like to acknowledge: reality. I know this nuance of courage, the part that requires looking at yourself and having that hard conversation. I can't do it. I'm overwhelmed. I do need help. I'm failing. I'm not as together as I portray. Mirrors can make formidable opponents." And think about this, guys. Even as she was dealing with this, and even though she didn't feel she could compete, she never shirked her duties as the leader of this team. She was seen and heard cheering on her teammates, telling them how much she wanted them to see them medal and be on the podium at every event. And they all praised her for that leadership and grace despite the circumstances. I'm going to wrap it up with this, Rabbi. With all this in mind and what she was dealing with, and as Anthony mentioned, Biles also lost her aunt unexpectedly last week. I can understand for her why winning that bronze medal on the balance beam felt like winning gold. It was her 7th career Olympic medal, tying her with Shannon Miller for the most ever by an American gymnast. It's just sad that even in this new day and age, there are still people out there who look at athletes like Biles as nothing more than entertainment, either forgetting or just not caring that these are also human beings who struggle with the same life issues as the rest of us.
Yeah, that's, you guys made all of the points that needed to be made. I want to go through two things. I want to look at it for another reason. Everyone's like, oh, she quit on the team. You do realize that if she had continued in the condition that she was in, she would have probably lost a medal, or at least downgraded the medal of the silver that her team got. And more importantly, she would have probably injured herself because she was not in the right frame of mind to compete. He was not at the physical level that she needed to be in. And that is what matters at the end of the day. Mental health, and honestly, in this case, also physical health, is the most important thing to an athlete. And yes, there are Twitter trolls out there. And Jay, I'm never one of the belief of, if you haven't been in this situation, you can't complain. But for people who have the complaints about them, you don't even know what you're watching. You probably have never watched gymnastics ever. So shut up. Literally, shut up. And also, and I hate to say this, and I'm going to simplify it, I don't know how this problem can be solved. We can bring it up as much as we possibly can, but in the end, people are still going to report on this. NBC still has a lot of money, so they have to have a face of the games every now and then. I don't know how you can, in this day and age of as much media as we can, limit the coverage that we give people like Simone Biles, like Naomi Osaka, and there's no real answer to this. And that's the big problem. What we're seeing here, as you said, Jay, I think this has always been a problem in society. We don't want to discourage what people did back then, like when people are discouraging what Kerry Strug did in 1996. It was a heroic effort. Should it be done? It's up to you what you've read of the accounts of what happened over those last few weeks. Same with Dominic Mosciano on Twitter, basically mentioning the same exact thing. I don't want to discount what happened then, but we need to find a way to balance out life and sports. And sometimes, especially post-pandemic, we haven't really done that. All right, guys, we are going to move on. And we are going to move on to... Yeah, we're going to move on. We're going to move on to more Olympics. There's a segment we did on the show a few weeks ago about Olympic athletes to watch. 2 out of the 3 of us did very well with our picks. And we're a democracy. It's just as what it is. So let's revisit. Let's start with Anthony. He picked Simone Biles, so he's going to talk about how the rest of the Olympic women's gymnastics team did in Tokyo.
Yeah, you know, for what it's worth, and one of the biggest things I was lost in all of this is the fact that not only was Simone Biles there to support her teammates, but it was obviously reciprocated. Her teammates were very supportive, and they came through. You know, they won the silver medal in that team event. They walked away with a total of 6 medals. So it wasn't the expectations that we thought that Simone Biles and the women's gymnastics would go in and dominate. But you know what? To walk away with 6 medals and to see kind of the rest of the gymnastics team kind of step up at Biles' absence was a great story. You think about 18-year-old Suni Lee from St. Paul, Minnesota, who was obviously getting a silver medal in the team competition, but she just a gold medal in the all-around event, obviously, filling in for Simone Biles, the first among Americans to compete for the United States at the Olympics, and a world-class athlete in her own right. You think about Michaela Skinner, who won a gold medal in her right, and filled in for Biles in one of these individual events, which opened up the door for her to win a medal.
Michaela Skinner won a silver, and let me just tell you, her Olympics would have been over if Biles didn't withdraw. Her Olympics would have been completely over because of the 2 rules. So you talk about Michaela Skinner, she got a golden opportunity, and she kicked the door in and got a medal.
Next girl up.
Yeah, and people tend to forget, and for the morons to say Biles quit on her team, she didn't exactly quit on her team as much as she took a step back and allowed someone else to step up to the plate, and that's why they have alternatives. They even have one that couldn't participate because he tested positive for COVID. Jake Carey is another one that stepped up and walked away with a medal in these Olympics. So the women's gymnastics team, you know what? For they're young and they stepped up. I think it's the overall support that we saw from the gymnastics team that really got them through these competitions, and the fact that we did see a couple of the other girls really step away, walk away with gold or silver in their respective competitions, and Simone Biles was able to come back and win bronze to kind of add to that total. Overall, I think it was a good Olympics for more than just the medal part. It was more of the unity and the maturation from all these young ladies. I mean, they did a tremendous job under the circumstances.
They did, absolutely, Anthony. They did exactly what they needed to do. And I think seeing Jade Carey win gold in floor exercise, which was her specialty, getting to even compete in the all-around, which, again, that would have been Simone's spot. And again, seeing what Suni Lee did, having a very solid competition, keeping all-around medals in the U.S. women's gymnastics family. They've been that way since 2004. And the best part about it is, with this little uniting of the old guard that was around for most of 12 and 16 to the new guard of 21, you might be seeing a lot of these people again in 3 years in Paris. All right, Jay, let's go to the water.
Yeah, I'll add one little thing. It's funny, Rabbi, you talk about how Simone having to step back opened up other opportunities for other members of the team who may not have gotten a chance to do it. And this can only help the confidence and the experience that these other girls got. The future of the USA women's gymnastics post Simone Biles looks pretty good, guys.
And it does also, but I would also say that we're never going to have as dominant of a gymnast as Simone Biles, but we could still have you could still see a lot of strength. Like I said, US have been the tops in all around since 2004, and I don't see any reason of that changing. Now, again, to the water.
To the water. On our preview show, I said the 2 Olympic athletes that I was going to be looking at were Caleb Dressel and Katie Ledecky, but for different reasons. I posed the question on that show, which is the tougher pressure, adding to your own legacy or trying to live up to the legacy of someone else? And I noted that Katie Ledecky fell into the first category and Caleb Dressel into the second category. I think this segment is a perfect time to see how that question was answered for both of them. Ledecky won gold in the 800 meters and the inaugural 1500 meters, won silver in the 400 meters. It's the first time she'd lost an Olympic final after winning the 800 in 2012 and then winning the 200 and 400 and 800 triple in 2016, as Australian Ariane Titmus chased her down at the 300 meter mark and won with the second fastest time in 400 meter history. The fastest, of course, belongs to Ledecky, whose most remarkable performance may have been actually in the women's 4x200 meter freestyle relay. The U.S. team looked to be completely out of it, but Ledecky pulled off an extraordinary anchor leg to bring home the silver for the team, winning gold in the 1500 by about 10 meters against the field was made even more impressive because Ledecky had just completed the women's 200 meter freestyle final a little over an hour earlier, where she finished fifth, which was surprising as she was the prohibitive gold medal favorite coming into the games. She covered the metric mile with a time of 15:37.34, which is slightly slower than the Olympic record of 15:35.35 set during the qualifying heats. Now, despite not taking home as many golds as expected, she still secured her sixth individual Olympic gold medal and seventh overall to become the most decorated female swimmer in Olympic history, securing the legacy I talked about on the previous show. Her teammate, Erica Sullivan, who won silver in the 1500, said it best on coming home behind Ledecky, and here's the quote. "She is such a cool human. She's a legend, and she'll forever be a legend. The fact that I get to swim in the same generation as her, it's just so cool. Ledecky has always been a class act, and that's permanent." Caleb Dressel, guy was coming off 6 golds and 2 silvers at the most recent World Championships, made the medal stand 5 times in Tokyo. He won 2 relays as well as all 3 of his individual events, the 100-meter freestyle, 100-meter butterfly, and 50-meter freestyle. The Florida Gator also set 2 world records, lowering his own in the 100-meter butterfly and helping the U.S. break the 4x100-meter medley relay record. Dressel joined Michael Phelps, Mark Spitz, and Matt Biondi as the only male swimmers to win 5 or more golds in a single Olympic. Not bad for a guy who had the specter of Michael Phelps looming over him in these games. I think Dressel's former teammate and current mentor, Ryan Lochte, yes, that Ryan Lochte, said it best when talking to Dressel about living up to the pressure of being the next Michael Phelps. And here's the quote. "I had to tell him, you will never be Michael Phelps, but you will be Caleb Dressel, and you will make your name for yourself." And he is. The torch has been passed, and he's going to hold it very well. I agree 100%. And I think both of these 2 athletes lived up to the pressure that each one of them had and did it with class and did it the way you want to see it done.
Dressel is an animal, but can I tell you about Ledecky? I think it was the 800 meters. Do you realize that she holds the 24 fastest times ever? The top 24 is all Katie Ledecky. She is a master at the longer events. And Ariane Titmus did as damn of a good job as anybody could. She outswam Ledecky in the 400. Ledecky, by the way, set a world record pace herself. She just got beat. And the 200 meter, I don't know how anybody could do that double again. You talk about it. Who's to judge when you're talking about swimming all of those meters in one night? That the woman is a beast, and Dressel is well on his way to being the next dominant gold medal.
Yeah, we'll definitely see him in France, and Ledecky hasn't ruled out France either, so it'll be interesting to see what happens 4 years from now.
The only thing that can stop her is her body, and I don't think that's going to happen. It'll be 3 years from now. Like I said, that's a big difference, by the way, when you're thinking about seeing all these people again. Okay. I talked about Sam McCulloch. He finished 12th. Let's move the all around. Let's move on. To say with men's gymnastics, you have hopes for the U.S., but it's so dominated by a lot of countries, most specifically China, Japan, who won the golden team, and whatever the Russian team is called. It's the Rock in the building, the Russian Olympic Committee. So that's perfectly fine. I want to go back to week 1 of the competition and watching 3-on-3 basketball. I really like this sport for some strange reason. I was never not a fan of Big 3 that Ice Cube's league does, but I think what is actually called 3x3 basketball is kind of really exciting. And it's only 25 to 30 minutes a game. It's a quick watch. And for someone with ADD like me, it's perfect to watch it. But the performance of Kelsey Plum, who is the leading, obviously, if you know, she is the all-time leading scorer in NCAA history when she played at Washington. She scored 655 points in 9 games. You only play up to 21 in these games, or if 10 minutes runs out, whichever comes first. And then if you watch the final that happened, I think last Wednesday morning against, I want to say Russia. I don't remember exactly who it was. I think it was Russia, but she scored 5 points early. The U.S. looked like a very dominant women's team. And to see somebody like Kelsey Plum, a name who is very synonymous with the best team right now in the WNBA, the Las Vegas Aces, and is probably one of the 10 most noticeable stars right now in the WNBA. If you see her and you watch it sporadically, you'll know who she is. It's amazing to see this team just gel. Katie Lou Samuelson, Connecticut star, who just got into the league, was supposed to be on this team. Unfortunately, she had a positive COVID-19 test, so she couldn't be in it. But Jackie, Alicia Gray, Stephanie Dolson, Jackie Young, Kelsey Plum, cheers to the women for 3x3 gold. I'm very excited to see what that sport could do in the future. I'm assuming it's going to be there in Paris, and they'll probably be there in Los Angeles. For God's sakes, no more skateboarding, please. That's enough. that's enough. I can't watch it. All right. Let's move on, gentlemen, and we will move on to week 2 of the Olympics. It's track and field time, baby. With the screaming fans, okay, Paris 2024 is the time for screaming fans. But even with an empty crowd, there are plenty of storylines abound, and we're not even talking about that Norwegian wonder hurdler who won that strong final in the name of Karsten Wilhelm, who decided to try to rip his shirt in half, and it didn't really work out too well. It was kind of a YouTube moment, but that man is a beast in hurdles. So you know what? Perfectly fine by me. Anthony, let's start with another hurdler in the one spot for you.
Well, think about this. 5 years ago in Rio, there was a 16-year-old named Cindy McLaughlin that had qualified for the Olympics. And with that, she had actually broke the junior world record at the track and field trials that year leading up to the Olympics. Fast forward to this year, she broke another world record in the 400-meter hurdles event at the Tokyo, prior to the Tokyo Olympics to earn her spot. And in a downpour, made her qualify for the finals in a downpour, just like incredibly easy. And this fast forward to this past Wednesday night, she wins the gold medal in the 400-meter hurdles and under 52 seconds world record, 51.90. Her teammate and actual rival, Dalal Muhammad, actually won silver and came in with the second fastest time as far as her record. Look, Cindy McLaughlin, she's becoming one of the faces of the next generation of track and field stars. And Vashani Cunningham is another person that I throw out there. That's for those NFL fans out there, that is Randall Cunningham's daughter, if you want to Google that as well. McLaughlin has been breaking world records since high school, really. You know, she's a New Jersey product, and this was just a combination. She won a pretty dominant fashion her race, and this is considering that she didn't start out, that she actually started out the race and paced herself very well, and with a strong finish. So we're going to see McLaughlin around for a very long time. At the age of 21, she is an Olympic gold medalist, and it should be plenty more to come.
2 things. Number 1, imagine if you're telling a track and field star that all you have to do is break the world record and you're going to win. And then you go up against somebody faster. So as much as I hate to say it, that kind of was not the greatest thing in the world for who finished second to McLaughlin in that race. And also Jersey in the house, my friends. Aktun Mo for the 800 for the women, and McLaughlin. Tri-state area doing pretty well in this Olympics over in Tokyo. Jay, let's continue on with you. You're athlete hasn't gone yet, but she has got some gold medal futures.
She does. I mean, the track and field athlete I'm watching is the grande dame of U.S. women's track and field, and that's Allison Felix. She's a six-time gold medalist and the only woman in track and field with that many, and tied for the most overall medals with 9. She'll be making her 5th and final Olympic appearance, and we really should take the time to enjoy her final runs and take a moment to remember what she's meant to track and field. If she medals in any way in the 400 meters, she'll be the most decorated woman in Olympic track and field history. She spent the time since the 2016 Rio Games going through a difficult pregnancy in 2018 to give birth to her daughter Cameron, and also fighting her then sponsor Nike, accusing the company of being unsupportive of her after she became a mom and wanting her to take a 70% pay cut. She has since signed with Alita and become a major voice for maternity rights and the risks Black women take and face during pregnancy. Felix's goal in Tokyo isn't just about the medals, but about using her platform to further the progress in her sport and beyond. And as she put it, here's the quote: "I think for me, this one is different. It's not just wanting to get a gold medal. It's really about being that representation. I hope that women see me and see themselves in me, whether that's a mom who's struggling to feel like they can do it all, or a young girl seeing someone who looks like them compete. I hope that women just realize their worth," end quote. Her perseverance with training during the pandemic and even after the games were pushed back a year is why she was able to rally from behind at the Olympic trials to qualify for the 400 meters with a season best time of 50.02. And although she didn't qualify for the 200 meters, that's the event that's defined her career, she is happy to have one last chance to make Olympic history and add to a resume and legacy that is pretty much already secured. She qualified for the 400 meter final after crossing the finish line in the semis with an impressive season best time of 49.89 seconds. She was outpaced slightly by Stephanie Ann McPherson of Jamaica, who took the top spot with a time of 49.34. So if you're awake Friday morning at 8:35 a.m., tune in and enjoy your last chance to see a legend get one more moment in the sun.
You don't think she's going to compete at 40? Come on, we know this isn't. We know that track and field is somewhere where you can actually do 5 to 6 Olympic games. That 3-year break is very important.
Hey, I think she's kind of recognized that she has a new calling, and there is no bigger title than mom, and she knows it, and she's looking forward to that.
Good on her. Definitely good on her. Okay, so I'm going to start very serious, and then I'm going to go on a rant. So I picked Noah. I want to really start on the serious, and we talked. Anthony alluded to it earlier. Noah Lyles had a goal 2 years ago to win 3 gold medals at the Olympics, but his 2020 kind of changed all of that. He did win bronze on Wednesday. In the 200 meters, went 19.74. Andre DeGrasse, the Canadian, won the gold medal, and Lyles wasn't even the top American. Kenny Bednarek actually took silver in the event. And Lyles is a big-time struggler with mental health. He took antidepressants in summer of 2020 because of all of the stuff that had happened with COVID and all of the stuff that had happened with George Floyd and a lot of social justice issues. Broke down at the end of that 200 meters on Wednesday night, talking about all of his mental health issues. What he really did after this event is still is amazing, just to kind of bare your soul out there to an audience. He apologized after kind of that little, not outburst that he had, but kind of little mental breakdown, and it's kind of sad how everything went. And again, this just shows the pressure of being an Olympic athlete out there. You only get once every 4 years to do what you do, and then pressure is not necessarily off of you, but you do it on a lesser stage. You still do it for the money, you still do it for everything else. But I think what happened with Noah Lyles is just it shows that people can persevere in a time when a lot of stuff can come at you, but we do have to see the good side and bad side of all of this stuff, guys. Now for the other thing.
Here cometh the rant.
Felix is probably going to win a goddamn gold medal. McLaughlin has already won a gold medal. How do I get stuck picking all of the losers every single time? It happened with our athletes to watch, and I had to pick McCulloch because I wanted to pick a gymnast. I didn't want to pick anybody else, and that was a good idea. But come on, this cannot keep freaking happening. I can't wait till our NFL prediction show when I make the boldest prediction, and I know there's nothing to lose. Okay.
Moving on to US rant. Okay.
Oh, of course it's a self-serving rant. What kind of other rants do I have outside of that? I told you it would be a self-serving rant.
You're talking to the king of rants on this show.
I said, what kind of other rants do I have? Not you. Me. Moving on. Finally, we have USA basketball. Gold medal bound after losing to France in pool play almost 2 weeks ago. It's been 4 straight wins since. And ironically enough, guys, and I just learned this about 30 minutes before the show, that is the longest winning streak of the career of Zach LaVine. He has never won 4 games in a row with the Bulls or in high school or in college. So take that for what it's worth. It all comes full circle again tomorrow morning when the U.S. faces France again for a gold medal. Been a very interesting Olympics for the U.S. men's basketball team. And if you don't have Peacock, I'm sorry, you have to watch it on tape delay. Jay, your angle going into this final.
For me, it's all about the Jekyll and Hyde performances of this team in the quarters and the semis. The thing that I've noticed over the last 2 games is that Team USA has been about as Jekyll and Hyde as it gets between their first half performances compared to their second half performances in these last 2 games. In the first half of both the quarters and the semis, this team looked as lost and off their game as they did in their exhibition losses in Las Vegas. Yet they came out of halftime on fire from beyond the arc and displaying the overwhelming offensive firepower we come to expect from the USA, coupled with enough defense to stifle their opponents and win the second half and the game going away. When the USA lost to France 83-76 in the first game of pool play, the prevailing opinion by all the talking heads was that America's dominance in Olympic basketball was a thing of the past, except against only the most inferior of opponents. The fact that they then proceeded to blow out Iran 120-66 and the
most inferior of opponents, by the way.
Don't ruin my role here. And the Czech Republic 119-84 seemed to add fuel to that fire. As I said in our Olympic preview of Team USA, I wasn't as concerned about their early struggles as everyone else, as I expected things to improve once Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, and Devin Booker finished their previous engagement and joined Kevin Durant and company in Tokyo. And to some extent, they have, with Holiday's defense at the point of attack and Booker doing what Damian Lillard has been unable to do, score in bunches when the offense needed it. In the quarters against Spain, USA once again allowed Ricky Rubio to light them up. His 38 points is believed to be the most allowed by a Team USA to an opponent. And with 3:29 left in the first half, Spain was up by 10, 39-29, and the USA was 3 of 15 from beyond the arc. USA closed the half on a 14-4 run and never looked back. They recovered as a whole, making 9 of 15 from 3 in the second half and getting stops on defense, Rubio's scoring aside, forcing 17 turnovers on 14 steals, holding Spain to 7 of 23 from beyond the arc. The fact that Lillard is seemingly unplayable, he's not scoring enough to offset his absolutely awful defense, as evidenced by the USA seeing a second half lead shrink to 6 while he was on the floor in that game, was an issue before the finals trio arrived. It's less of an issue now as Popovich has more options. He closed the win against Spain with Durant, Jason Tatum, Booker, who had 9 points, 9 boards, and 5 dimes, Holiday, and the combination of Draymond Green and Bam Adebayo, and that unit finished off the 95-81 win. In the semis against Australia, a team that lit them up in the exhibition season, was more of the same. USA trailed by as many as 15 with 5:23 left in the second quarter, but the USA cut that deficit to 3 by halftime and then blitzed the Aussies in the third quarter, 32-10, to take a 74-55 lead that they never gave back en route to a 97-78 win. USA missed their first 10 threes and was 2 of 13 from beyond the arc at the half. Sound familiar? But coming out of a timeout at the 5:23 mark and until the 6:03 mark of the third quarter, USA scored 20 straight points in what's being called by some as a 6-minute and 56 span of perfect basketball. Once again, Durant was Durant. but Booker's 11 in that dominant third quarter on offense, and Holiday's defense, plus his 11 points, 8 assists, and 8 boards, helped seal the win. USA gets a rematch with France in the gold medal game on Saturday. Which version of Greg Popovich's squad will show up? The one that France beat to open pool play, or the one that showed up in the second halves of the last 2 games? We all know which version has the best chance to bring home the gold, boys.
Yeah, but as I said before, talent overassumes teamwork sometimes, and right now that talent is outshowing. The scheme may not be there, but that talent is much better.
The team is coming together, Rabbi, because the one thing the Australians did say that was a big thing that they had an issue with was the ability of Team USA to switch on defense 1 through 5 and do so effectively. And if they can keep that up, they were not able to do that the first time they played France. They have a really good shot because, as I'm sure you'll talk about in your turn, and I know I'm giving a spoiler here, I have a feeling playoff Durant is going to continue to show up for the USA.
Well, we call that Rucker Park Durant on this show. Anthony, let's continue on.
Yeah, you know what? One of the biggest keys have been has been Team USA's defense and the ability to switch from 1 to 5, because we don't have any size on this team. I mean, you think about this: Bam Adebayo, Draymond Green, and JaVale McGee are the only 3 bigs really on this team. And Draymond Green is not really a big per se. He just has the ability to play all 5 positions defensively. Look, they've been out-rebounded in majority of the games. If you did go back to the exhibition games, they were out-rebounded by France. Opener, they barely out-rebounded Iran by 2. They out-rebounded the Czech Republic. 2 obviously went blowout fashion games. They were out-rebounded by Spain in their game. And you realize in exhibition play, they were out-rebounded by Nigeria and Australia as well. This team really lacking size makes team rebounding so important. Obviously, against Australia, they out-rebounded them 44-29. Some of that offensive rebounds off their own miss, because in the first half, they couldn't hit anything from behind the arc. So those long counts of rebounds is going back to Team USA, giving them a lot of second and third chance opportunities. The thing with France is that they do have a big, and Rudy Gobert, who can punish them down in the paint. And we saw in that first meeting that he is a shot blocker who, unfortunately, the United States have to deal with on both ends of the court, something that they've kind of been able to avoid for the most part. Look, the team rebounder is going to have to be very important. Like, even the guards going to have to step up.
Holiday and Booker.
With team rebound, Booker, Holiday, for what it's worth, Damian Lillard, who has struggled in these Olympic games. Bam Adebayo has been in and out. He's missed a lot of bunny layups. They're going to leave those easy points because they just don't have a guy that can go down the paint outside of Kevin Durant and get them easy points. So they've fallen too much in love with the 3-pointer, which is why Jrue Holiday getting into the paint and getting those easy twos and those quality layups was so important to kind of break that streak and really get the offense flowing going into that second half of the game. Team USA, like I said, Team USA, the way the roster is constructed, it's constructed to beat up on an NBA team. Of course, in international play, they play more traditional half court. They play a traditional lineup. They play bigs. And the United States, for the most part, have been able to really get away with it. But they're going to have to really step it up against France. They can't afford to be out-rebounded. They certainly can't afford to get second and third chance opportunities when they do make the good defensive stands. So that's going to be just as important as knocking out the shots, as being able to limit France on the offensive boards, and also being able to switch and be able to get those rebounds and finish all those.
Yeah, and Anthony, I think a key for them is, since they know full well that they're going to have to gang rebound to even, kind of stay even in the battle of the boards. I think a big key for them on defense is being able to continue to force turnovers, to create steals, and get out in transition and get those easy baskets to offset the fact that they're not going to get a lot of second chance opportunities.
No.
in a game where
Yeah,
you know
and also
Gobert is going to dominate the
and
glass.
another thing too is they have to realize this is not the NBA. This is international FIBA basketball. You can't knock the ball off the rim. It's not goaltending. Australia actually did it a few times to them in the previous game. You are allowed to knock the ball off the rim. You don't have to wait for it to fall off the cylinder.
Nope.
I don't understand if anybody in the USA huddle realize that. I mean, you don't have to wait for the ball to come off the cylinder. You can actually go out and attack it, as long as you just don't do it Patty Mills did and try to knock it out from underneath the like literally.
There are rules. There are rules
to get
it.
But you have to be able to take advantage of the FIBA rules, especially when you are undersized, as Team USA is, and that's one of the rules that can actually help them as far as even a playing field on the glass.
Yeah, absolutely. This is going to be an very interesting final. And just note, the one guy who actually made the biggest block probably of this whole entire tournament is Nick Batum, who swatted away Luka Doncic's game-winning shot earlier today. God, I would have loved to see Slovenia and the U.S. in the finals. I love this Luka run. Okay, so Kevin Durant is going to be, with the win on tomorrow, the greatest basketball player for the United States of all time.
Wow.
Jordan could have did exactly what he did on the Dream Team, but Durant is now already the leading scorer all time in Olympic play for the United States. And if he wins tomorrow, he will have gone 3 for 3 in his trips out to wherever the Olympics has been. And I think the fact that in that first game, Durant got into early foul trouble. Maybe it was an adjustment to FIBA rules, not really playing or even preparing for what France is going to give them. If he can stay on the court tomorrow, I think the U.S. is going to win gold medal. 29 points against Spain in the quarterfinals made the Gasols look like they were about to retire, and they are. And they went 10 of 19. He went 10 of 19, 23 efficient points against Australia earlier this morning. He's been America's best player on offense by far. We talked about how they kind of tried to run everything in all the exhibition games through Damian Lillard. And then they realized that the best player in the world outside of LeBron James is on your team. So maybe you should give Kevin Durant a bunch of shots too. We saw him in the playoffs essentially almost take the Nets. If he, again, had lesser of a shoe size, they probably are going at least to the NBA Finals and possibly winning it. Kevin Durant is the best player healthy right now on earth. And you have to get him the ball more times than not. 30 points in the 2012 gold medal game, 30 in the 2016 gold medal game. Kevin Durant always rises to the occasion internationally, and that, my friends, is why with a win against France, he will become the greatest Olympic player of all time, and it's not even close.
Here's hoping.
Wait,
Anthony, here's hoping the rabbi gets this prediction correct.
Let's hope
I probably
so.
won't.
By the way, since we talk about 2 Olympians and possibly 3 gold medals, who will you take? Hoodie Melo or Rucker Park Kevin Durant in a one-on-one?
I take Rucker Park Kevin Durant because Hoodie Melo was in Greece, and Hoodie Melo's Greece performance kind of unfortunately tilts the scales. All right, we are moving back stateside, my friends, and let's go to New York, where it's been a busy few weeks in the hot stove league of the tri-state area. But no, we're not talking about the Knicks or Nets. But since we are here, bonjour, Evan Fournier to the Knicks. Good day, Patty Mills to the Nets. And Kemba Walker is coming home, baby. Let's see those buckets flow. Pretend it's like the 2011 Big East tournament every single game and get the best team doctors out there. That's probably going to be how you do a good job there. But we're talking about Major League Baseball right now. The Yankees and the Mets went busy shopping. And you can get some new toys, mostly in Wrigleyville. I've heard that they've had a discount sale going on over there.
Yep.
Jay, let's talk first about the Bronx Bombers. They're a little more powerful than they were a few weeks ago.
Yeah, they definitely took advantage of the Wrigleyville going out of business sale. Overall, I like what the Yankees did at the trade line, especially the acquisitions of Joey Gallo and Anthony Rizzo. As once again, Brian Cashman showed why he's one of the best GMs in the game, despite what some fickle Yankee fans and Yankee media may say. He filled a huge team need without A, giving up any of the organization's top prospects, and 2, without being on the hook for the 2021 salaries of either Gallo or Rizzo, allowing the team
that to me. Explain that to
under
me.
the luxury tax threshold. Both trades are offensive game changers for New York. Gallo and Rizzo as left-handed hitters with power improves the balance of the New York lineup. Gallo's Gold Glove defense and athleticism improves the overall outfield defense. His versatility protects the Yankees against future injuries, and he just might hit 50 homers playing half his games at Yankee Stadium, and he's under contract through next season, guys. He's not going anywhere. This is not a rental. Rizzo also brings Gold Glove defense at first base, strong leadership skills, and a championship pedigree. Unfortunately, this may be a rental depending on how things shake out at the end of this season. There's still the looming specter of Luke Voigt. So Gallo is a 3 true outcome hitter. He strikes out a lot. He walks a lot. He homers a lot. He leads the AL in walks this season with 78 and has a 369 on-base percentage despite only hitting .213 with Texas. Yes, he struck out 135 times, but he also hit 25 home runs. He is off to a slow start in pinstripes, but this is a guy who in his last 2 full seasons in Texas, 2017, 2018, hit 41 and 40 homers. There's every reason to believe he'll make very good use of the short porch in right field. Rizzo, in the 7 years in Chicago where he played a full season, averaged 29 homers, 96 RBI with a 276, 379, 499 slash line with 4 Gold Gloves at first base. He is off to a great start in pinstripes, 3 homers, 6 RBI, 8 runs scored with a 400, 519, 850 slash line as the Bronx Bombers have gone 5-1 since the deadline. Team's now 9 games over 500 and 2 games out of the second wildcard spot. If they can ride out the COVID IL stints of Garrett Cole and Jordan Montgomery, be nice if young Mr. Luis Heel can replicate his first start, and at least split this upcoming 4-game series with Seattle, then they may finally be on their way to becoming the team we thought they'd be when we did our season preview way back in April. We'll see.
Natural transition, by the way. They just made it 6-1 since that time. They were down most of the game and had a 7th-inning home run from a short porch home run by Joey Gallo. What a surprise. It's amazing that it only took this long for the Yankees to realize if you get enough left-handed batters in the lineup, they can hit it over the easiest home run spot. I think Anthony even said it with Joe Harris earlier this year. You give me all that money to basically hit to that right field porch, he's going to even hit a few more home runs. But
Rabbi, I always love it when you backfill my analysis with a real-time example of my analysis.
That was about as good of a real-time example as we could have possibly gotten. The Yankees are hot. The Mets are not, but they did make some good deals at the trade deadline.
Well, the Mets are hoping to strike gold in 2021 the same way they did at the trade deadline in 2015 when Yoenis Cespedes became the spark plug that kind of powered the Mets to a division title and eventually an appearance in the 2015 World Series. In this case, it is going to, again, shopping in Wrigley Field and getting Javi Baez. Now, obviously, this move was made with Javi Baez being a free agent, and the pairing of him and Francisco Lindor has kind of been the best middle infield that you could possibly have in baseball. It also helped that Baez went on record and said how he wanted to play with his good friend, and obviously going back to their days in Team Puerto Rico in the World Baseball Classic. Now, look, prior to the trade, he was batting .248, 22 home runs, 13 stolen bases in 91 games with the Cubs this season. If you know anything about Baez, he is an aggressive hitter. He does not cheat. He strikes out an awful lot, but he will give you a lot of power. Has say in his first game with the Mets against Cincinnati last weekend, a game I actually was in attendance. He hit a 2-run home run to kind of cut that lead to 1. The Mets came back and won that game in extra innings. Unfortunately for New York, it is the only win they've had in the last 7 games, and he's joined a team that is almost dead last in every offensive category. And this is what guys coming back. You have Conforto back in the lineup. You have a healthy Alonso. and you have McNeil back in the lineup, and the Mets offense has completely disappeared. They've lost 6 of the last 7 games. Their division lead, which was once 4.5 games just a week and a half ago, is now a half a game, and they're going into a crucial weekend 3-game set with the Philadelphia Phillies, who are right on their heels, and the Atlanta Braves, who was long dart out of it. Ronald Acuna was done for the season, or just a mere 2 games back. The parity that is the National League East is coming back to play. But the Mets, and of course, Rabbi, you will address that situation. It's not just the offense that's been a problem for New York. It's been the one time where they're starting pitching, which they didn't quite do anything with that as far as the trade deadline. I mean, I have to ask you, did either team do anything?
Honestly,
let us not forget also that Baez has the base running highlight of the year. Let's not forget that.
Oh yeah, without question. And by the way, Baez's baseball IQ came into play last night against Miami when he was able to elude a tag at home and still score. Like I said, Baez is bringing power. He's bringing attitude. He's bringing a high baseball IQ to a Met team that probably could desperately need it, but they have a lot of things going wrong for them right now. Mm-hmm. And it's a really bad time to go into a slump when you have a red-hot Philadelphia team right down the I-95 interstate that is literally nipping at the heels.
Yep, and they just took advantage of the Washington Nationals this week, which is why that lead is now down to a half a game.
Who also had a fire sale FYI as well.
Oh yeah. We'll talk about that in just a matter of seconds. I'm not impressed by the fact that there was very little done in pitching in the trade deadline for both teams. Both teams made one small move. For the Mets, it was a little bit before adding Rich Hill, and Anthony loves watching Rich Hill pitch. It's almost like the definition of super slow-mo from the first inning on. It seems like he's pitching in a slow pitch softball game. I know it's good to see in other places, but maybe New York is a little impatient for stuff like that. Jacob deGrom won't be back until September. Marcus Stroman is in and out. Taijuan Walker apparently only drunk an elixir for half of the season and then went right back to where he was at the end part of the season. They need some pitching depth, and the Mets just haven't gotten it right now. And they're kind of just praying that the next schmuck that they put on for 5 or 6 innings does pretty well on the mound. And sometimes that luck is going to run out. Yankees are not immune to this either. The only bad start that they've had 2 bad starts in the span of these last 2 weeks. One was by Garrett Cole, who we now know was probably a little sick when he was on the mound, since he just got put on the COVID-19 list earlier this past week. And the other one was by their one acquisition at the trade deadline, Andrew Heaney, who basically had a terrible game on Monday to the Baltimore Orioles. But Anthony will be happy to know that the Yankees kept the tradition this year of shelving Matt Harvey in a start against New York. That tradition is live and well in 2021. I want to see that because the Yankees have also been kind of snake bitten. I love the stat line. Domingo Germán has his best game as a Yankee. Next day, Domingo Germán is on the IL for a little while. It's just the pitching staff. You almost need 10 pitchers right now to get through the year if you're the Yankees and Mets. The injury bug has been hit hard, and I wanted, 10 starting pitchers. That was just open days. You need that, and honestly, they didn't get that. And I think going forward, especially for the Yankees, as they're now in this tight race, they're going to be fighting with Oakland the rest of the way. And who knows, if Boston keeps going down, they might be fighting for their spot. But the Yankees need weapons in the artillery, and they can't just depend on Garrett Cole getting healthy. Jameson Taillon, which has just been a revelation, pitcher of the month for July. Yeah. And just anybody else. I know they'll get Corey Kluber back, but right now, I wonder what's going to happen with this team.
Rabbi, Severino's also expected back sometime between now and the end of the month. So it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, for them, getting those 2 guys back is kind of like getting guys after the old post-August waiver wire back in the day. It'll be interesting to see if, they can just ride this out till they get refortified.
Yeah,
right.
it's interesting to see a lot of former Yankees that could have possibly helped this team now playing in the Olympics right now for either Team US,
D-Raw, baby.
Japan, or whomever.
And Masahiro Tanaka on Monday. I miss him. I miss him a lot. All right, let's move on. Attention shoppers, there is bargain basement sales going on in Chicago, Washington, D.C., Minneapolis, and any other place that wants to ruin their team for 2021. So to complete your summer,
Colorado.
Except we'll talk about that in a second. Thanks for ruining the bid, Jay. To complete the summer collection, we've done some shopping in the trade deadline in some of these great cities. Now we do what the internet knows best, and that's be critics without logical reasoning. Anthony, who are the kings of this trade deadline?
Oh, it's gotta be the Los Angeles Dodgers. I mean, come on. You want to talk about the rich getting richer? Look, you have Bauer that's on a leave, and for all talks and purposes, the Dodgers do not want him anywhere near Chavez Levine at this point. With all that he's brought to this, for all the stuff that has nothing to do with baseball that he's brought to this organization. So what do? They call the Nationals and they get Matt Soldier, of all people, a world champion, a former Cy Young winner, a multi-time All-Star. Oh, and by the way, and by the way, to throw for starters, we're giving Trey Turner, who is arguably one of the fastest players in baseball, one of the
15 best players in Major League Baseball.
Yes, they literally, and it's like an embarrassment of riches to a lineup that already has an embarrassment of riches. Look at it this way. Mookie Betts is a Gold Glove as an outfield, and he's playing second base the last couple of games. And Trey Turner can play the outfield. That is so unfair. And here's the point to order. And when they made two more overlooked deals. He's got a quality left-hander and Danny Duffy. That kind of gives us a pitching depth. They got Billy McKinney from the Mets. Believe it or not, the Mets offense was struggle. McKinney was somewhat of a decent bat that helped them early in the season through that offensive malaise that they had in April and May. So you look at all of this, they're trying, look, they are the defending champs, but they're also chasing a team that, by the way, in San Francisco, made a move of their own and added Chris Bryant to that lineup. They are trying to go for broke. They got Matt Soldier, who, by the way, struck out 10 in his Dodger debut just 24 hours ago. The Dodgers, they won the championship last year after we had plenty of time and had plenty of fun, kind of getting on them about having a stacked roster and not winning anything. But now they're going for the repeat, and they're one of the toughest divisions in baseball, without question, because they're chasing the Giants, but they have the Padres not too far behind. And depending on what happens with Fernando Tatis Jr., it could be a two-team division race for all we know. But the Dodgers, look, they got Soldier, and because he's a free agent, they can actually re-sign him or even extend him for all we know. And with Trey Turner, they just adds so much speed and flexibility to that lineup. Duffy gives them a great left-handed pitcher to kind of short the back end of rotation. It's just an embarrassment of riches that they have right now. It's so. I'm going to say this. It's a great trade deadline, but as a fan, it's so unfair. And it's like watching an NBA dynasty. It's like watching the Golden State Warriors add Kevin Durant after you won 72 games.
That is literally, that is the actual perfect comparison, because that is the definite comparison. It's the baseball version of the Golden State Warriors getting Kevin Durant. Spot on, Anthony.
It's actually a worse comparison because the Golden State Warriors didn't win the finals the previous year. So this is a worse comparison. And remember when I was saying before that the Mets and Yankees need all of the arms that they can get? I know they will probably not have Bauer for the rest of the season. Kershaw's injured. Dustin May is injured. Not only did they add Scherzer, Danny Duffy, still have Walker Buehler on the payroll. It was the NL Pitcher of the Month.
Yeah,
Cole Hamels. They just signed Cole Hamels for basically nothing. So imagine getting that Cole Hamels back, even a 75% Cole Hamels. All right, Jay, what's the story with your losers of this trade deadline?
It's actually the non-story. forgive the pun, of the trade deadline. And it's the fact that Trevor Story was not traded. One of the biggest stories of the trade deadline. The Rockies shortstop was considered baseball's most obvious, captain obvious trade piece before the deadline. He's a two-time All-Star with a power bat and an expiring contract. That he would be traded to a contending team was thought to be a foregone conclusion as the deadline approached. The Rockies were slogging through another bad losing season. He was their obvious way out, a chance to start the rebuild for next year. And yet, when the day came and went, Story was still in Colorado, and everyone in baseball who didn't ply their trade in the 303 area code, and maybe some who did, were left scratching their heads. Story himself was left really confused, and he didn't have great things to say about the situation. Here's the quote. Guys like me, in a situation I'm in, I was expecting something. It was very nerve-wracking and time-consuming. The frustration over a trade deadline process that left him hanging boiled over to the point that Story pulled himself from the lineup of last Friday's game against the Padres. And with that, the Rockies had, for the second season in a row, alienated yet another star player. We all pretty much saw this movie last season with Nolan Arenado. The Rockies did actually manage to ultimately trade Arenado to the Cardinals. Things aren't going to work out that way with Story, who's going to play out the final 2 months of his contract and then leave for a better situation. Story was asked whether he would entertain an offer from the Rockies for a long-term contract, and he said, quote, I think the writing is on the wall. You think?
Yeah.
And it wasn't just Story. The Rockies did very little at the trade line to give the current roster any reason to believe they'll be on an improved team next season. Can Colorado make moves in the offseason to change that? Maybe, but that would require the current mess that is their front office to sort itself out. And even if that happens, I don't think it's going to matter to Story. I can't see any scenario where he returns to a team that pushed out Arenado and DJ LeMahieu before him. What did not happen at the deadline left Story disappointed in trying to figure out why the Rockies did not trade him. He's back in the lineup the next day and will play out the rest of the season and try and go out on a high note. If he's able to do that, it will be one of the very few high notes the Rockies will have this season. They screwed the pooch at the deadline, guys, big time.
You know what? I'm sorry, but I think the highlight of Denver, Colorado this week is the creators of South Park trying to buy the real life Casa Bonita. You know, look, I don't understand what it's with the Rockies and their inability to move disgruntled stars when it's pretty obvious they want out of Denver, Colorado. Arenado last year, Story this year. Look, they're becoming the Minnesota Vikings, where we used to see them screw up the draft and run out of time every year. This is the Rockies in a nutshell. They just don't know what the heck they're doing, and it's just, you're not winning. Move them, get some prospect bags. It's time to rebuild. I don't know what the heck is going on in that front office.
Well, I think the problem is,
which is why he's pissed.
Well, I think the problem is you can't just get rid of somebody for one or two prospects when everybody is giving away talent. And if they had to act earlier than the trade deadline because there were 3 or 4 fire sales that were getting better quality because they were giving. Story's a big name out there, but it's just one name. And teams are willing to wait out, not having to give anything to Trevor Story in the offseason than give them something now. And that's exactly what happened.
And Rabbi, there were a lot of other GMs around Major League Baseball who said that the front office of the Rockies, the type of asks they were wanting in order to trade Story were things that had people going, are you kidding me? Really? Get out of here.
Well, they didn't offer to pay any of his money, apparently, kind of like the Cubs did and the Rangers did with that. I still can't believe that happened. Okay. Quick winners of this trade deadline. Don't underestimate the move that the Rays did to get Nelson Cruz in this lineup. It's probably one of the first big moves I've ever seen the Rays do to help their hitting. And it's made a difference. They're right now in the lead in the AL East, and they're one of the hottest teams in the AL right now. They're 65-44. They just swept Boston this past weekend, and now they're the favorites not only in the AL East, they might be the favorites in the entire American League. So just take that for size. Having that bad in the lineup in the postseason, that scares me. Anthony mentioned San Francisco. They're still 4 games up on Los Angeles. Getting Chris Bryant was a huge move. I talked about it on the midseason show. San Francisco, they're kind of starting their process a little bit early. They weren't expected to be in this position this year. They've been the best team in baseball for almost 2+ months now. And the fact is they had to kind of get a big name to get in the firepower of what the Dodgers did, and getting Chris Bryant. And if they can secure Chris Bryant for multiple years after that, it's a damn good get. Losers, Tatis will be back for the Padres, but they were probably the only team that was kind of left at the altar of getting pretty much nothing in this trade headline.
How surprising is that, with as aggressive a GM as they have
in
Keller, that they came up empty? That was a surprise.
Well, there was a rumor that they were going hard after Scherzer, but the Dodgers kind of swooped in. It's just, you can do whatever you want in terms of being aggressive, but when other teams are just as aggressive, sometimes that's going to win out. And that's why the Dodgers got Scherzer and Turner and kind of made San Diego just hope they can they can hold off Cincinnati, who's 4 games right now back of their wild card spot, because I don't see San Diego doing anything other than going on the road for a wild card game. And what the hell are you doing, Washington? You won the World Series 2 years ago. You still have a ton of great players in that organization. Why do you want to rebuild now? You can do it from the inside. You did not have to get rid of Trey Turner. And now, in a division that's always going to be winnable year after year, as we've seen that it's mediocre, you're resigning yourself to getting 4-game sweeps from the Phillies and giving Anthony 75,000 heart attacks that the division is on the line this weekend in the series because of that. So bad on you, Nationals. Bad job on this trade deadline. I know what the Cubs did is exactly what they were planning to do. What the Nationals did was just shocking, and I don't.
And the worst part is they punted when they were in a division that is still winnable. I mean,
exactly.
Think about this. If they don't give away all their access, they're probably in the thick of the playoff race right now as we speak. And they basically push punted the season away. And they literally were striking distance of the Mets and just decided to wave the white towel, maybe prematurely. And now as a result, they just got swept by a red hot Phillies team, while the Mets were coming back down to earth, and they probably could have been the team that could be in the Phillies position right now. But baseball, what you gonna say?
That's baseball, Susan. All right, moving on. So there are 2 days in a weekend, right? That's what they tell me. So guess what? We have 2 separate NFL Hall of Fame ceremonies because of COVID last year. The class of 2020's NFL Hall of Fame crew will go in Saturday night, and then the class of 2021 will be inducted on Sunday. Only 1 segment for this, guys, so you can pick whoever you want. We're not doing it. Jay, pick some players from this entire weekend to focus on, possibly from an organization.
Yeah, I mean, this is easy for me, guys. I mean, y'all know how much of a Steelers fan I am, and the Steelers wing in Canton is about to get much larger. Bill Cowher, Bill Nunn, Donnie Shell, Troy Polamalu, Alan Faneca. The team with the most members of Pro Football's Hall of Fame increased their number across the 2020 and 2021 classes, and each one of these gents is deserving of a gold jacket. Cowher, in a tough spot following Chuck Noll, Steelers head coach, made a name for himself on the field, winning a Super Bowl after the 2005 season. First 6 seed to do so, and off the field with the chin, which should be prominent when they unveil Cowher's bust during his induction ceremony at the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio on Saturday. Cowher may have been tough on his players, but he loved them all and they knew it. May not have been an elite X's and O's coach, but he was able to motivate his players like few coaches could. That history-making 2005 season is a great example. Steelers were 7-5 after 12 games on a 3-game losing streak. Players were pissed, feeling like they gave away the chance at the playoffs. Cowher came into the meeting room and said, quote, "I don't know why you're pissed off. Quite frankly, you made it all easy for yourself. I don't have to tell you anymore. You want to be world champions? You just have to win them all. 8 in a row. 4 to get in and 4 in the playoffs. You got to do it the hard way. Never been done before. We all know the rest. Super Bowl title number 5. Bill Nunn is someone most college football fans do not know about, but he was as responsible as any member of the organization for building the team of the 70s who won 4 Super Bowls in 6 years. He's posthumously going in as a contributor. He's the first African-American scout to be enshrined, and he was more than that for the Steelers. brought instant credibility from the historically black colleges and universities that were often overlooked by many NFL teams. As a sports writer, sports editor, and later managing editor of the Pittsburgh Courier, an influential black newspaper that had a wide circulation nationally, Nunn chose a black All-America football team, and he led an annual banquet in Pittsburgh for those chosen. He not only knew where the good talent played, but perhaps more importantly, he built relationships with their coaches that paid off handsomely. He took all that knowledge and connections with him to the Steelers. Mean Joe Green, L.C. Greenwood, Mel Blount, Ernie Holmes, Donnie Shell, John Stallworth, Dwight White, all of them major parts of the dynasty, all of them from HBCUs, and all of them became Steelers in a large part because of Bill Nunn. Speaking of Donnie Shell, often overlooked part of the legendary Steel Curtain defense, but he's as much a reason for the 4 Super Bowl titles as any of the more well-known names. Wasn't drafted out of South Carolina State in 1974, another HBCU, back when the draft was 17 rounds. Next day, Nunn calls, offers him a contract, rest is history, won the starting job at strong safety in 77, owned it for 11 years, became the first strong safety to get 50 INTs. 51 was his total. And 33 years after he retired, he finally joins Blunt, Green, Jack Hammond, Jack Lambert as the 5th member of the famed Steelers defense to make it to Canton. Shell set the standard for the position, so there was a lot for Troy Polamalu to live up to when the Steelers drafted him out of USC in 03. And like Shell, he was the Steelers strong safety for 11 years. Struggled as a rookie, came into his own in his second season, and helped define the Steelers defense from 04 until he retired in 2014. They ranked in the top 10 in scoring defense 7 times, leading the league 4 times. Ranked in the top 10 fewest yards allowed 10 times, leading the league 5 times. They went to 3 Super Bowls, winning 2. There are too many highlight plays to name, but they also Polamalu fly all over the field, making plays that won the game. He was unique. He had the hair. He had the humbleness. It was all vintage Polamalu, and he's going to go down as one of the best defensive players in NFL history. And finally, Alan Faneca. It's always tough to define what makes a Hall of Fame offensive lineman, but this guy is it. 6-time first-team All-Pro, 2 more selections to the second team, 9 Pro Bowls, selected as a starter on the NFL's all-decade team of the 2000s. He's on the Steelers' all-time team. Missed only 2 games in his 13-year career, and one of them being when Bill Cowher rested some starters in a meaningless season finale. And yet it still took 6 years of eligibility before he was finally voted in. Faneca's signature offensive line moment came in Super Bowl XL. Rabbi, you want to convert that to numbers for me?
That'd be 40.
There you go. When Faneca pulled from left guard all the way to the right and pancaked Seattle linebacker Leroy Hill into the middle of next week. The play is called 34 counter pike, and it was the play where Faneca's block sprung Willie Parker to a Super Bowl record 75-yard touchdown run. Nothing new for Faneca. Pulling left to right to throw a block was the game day ride to work for him. Signature play that he ran consistently for the Steelers. Bill Cowher said that he could always tell the difference between guys playing for money and guys playing for the love of the game. He said he didn't have a problem with either one, but the guys playing for the love of the game were going to play 60 minutes, and those were the guys he wanted on the field. Alan Faneca was one of those guys. He played for the love of the game, and he's finally made it to the Hall of Fame where he belongs.
I look at the Hall of Fame presenters list, by the way. Faneca is going to have Hines Ward giving him his speech. Polamalu is going to have, and I can't wait for a Dick LeBeau induction. Yep. I cannot wait. And Bill Cowher is going to get Art Rooney. I think that whole organization, this is a big weekend for them.
Yep.
And if you want to hear about the 16-3 Hall of Fame game that's currently going on right now, go to another show. Anthony, let's talk about the other presenters that are the non-Steelers edition of 2021.
Yeah, you know what I think about the class of 2021? 2 guys kind of stand out, and their careers overlap, and that is Peyton Manning and Charles Woodson. Think about this. Charles Woodson is the Heisman Trophy winner from 1997. The runner-up is Peyton Manning. They were both in the same draft class. Peyton Manning obviously went number 1. Charles Woodson went 4th to the Oakland Raiders. Both played 18 seasons. In Charles Woodson's case, 18 seasons, 9 Pro Bowls, 65 career interceptions, 1,220 career tackles, 20 sacks. The man did it all. In 5 years for Oakland, he went to 5 Pro Bowls and was pretty much a regular as an All-Pro. And also, you think about this, they both have a common enemy in Tom Brady, because Charles Woodson is the man who put the hit on Tom Brady in the tuck rule game that led to the fumble that was overruled and called a forward pass, and we pretty much kickstarted the Patriot dynasty that Peyton Manning had a hard time overcoming for the first few years, and he had the stigma of not being able to win the big game. Peyton Manning, 18 seasons, 14 career Pro Bowls, 71,940 career passing yards, 539 total passing touchdowns, still holds the single season record for passing touchdowns in the season, going back to 2013. Remember the 7-touchdown game he had to start that season off against the then Super Bowl champion Baltimore Ravens. Think about it like this. These two guys literally summed up a generation that bridged the gap 2 decades, you know, and both in both cases went to a different team and had a career renaissance. You know, Charles Woodson went to Green Bay where he played more as a corner than as a safety. And both strong and free safety was kind of catalyst to that 2010 Green Bay Packers team that became the 6th seed and went on to win the Super Bowl. And he famously quoted that former President Barack Obama, being a Bills fan, saying that he won't come to see us, so we'll go see him instead. And they ran the table, and I hate to bring this up, Jay, but they did knock off your Pittsburgh Steelers in Super Bowl 45.
That was a tough one.
In a very close game. And again, that Charles Woodson, you know, has a hallmark to him, aging himself. He broke his collarbone, actually deflected what would have been a touchdown pass late in the second quarter. In the case of Peyton Manning, after coming back from neck surgery, going to the Denver Broncos and kind of revitalizing his career after being kind of Mr. Indianapolis Colt and leading them to a Super Bowl 41 victory in the downpour down in Miami. He goes to Denver. He jumpstarts that career, wins another Super Bowl, kind of his swan song at the age of 39. Even though he wasn't the same player, he was able to do just enough. Wrote a world-class defense that was led by Von Miller and DeMarcus Well, the bookends, and they made Cam Newton's night a living nightmare and Santa Clara talking about Super Bowl 50. But also, keep this in mind, and this is kind of the personification, Charles Woodson did not intercept Peyton Manning until his final season, both the final seasons, in a regular season game between the Broncos and the Raiders. Charles Woodson picked them off twice. So he had to wait 17 full seasons before he was able to finally get a notch on his belt and say, I intercepted Peyton Manning in an NFL game. Look, these two guys were the personification of offense and defense, world class, from start to finish throughout their whole careers. And the fact that they're both going in. By the way, honorable mention, I got to throw this out, John Lynch and Calvin Johnson as well, two world-class professionals. Calvin Johnson was just a monster. John Lynch was kind of the launch pad to that world famous cover 2 Tampa defense that won the Super Bowl 39 against Charles Woodson's Raiders.
Tony Dungy.
So I mean, we look at the class, and you look at the Steelers, and basically have 26 Hall of Famers. The class of 2021, it's like watching my childhood, pretty much. Go from playing with them in a video game to now seeing them in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I'm actually looking forward to watching these Hall of Fame inductions over the weekend. They're both I always thought that was the hallmark of the weekend, not really the game itself.
It is.
So, like I said, congratulations to all these guys. Well deserved, and I can't wait to see. Like I said, I can't wait to see what the class of 2022 and beyond offers us, because there's so many guys that are still kind of waiting. And I know they're well deserved, but I still kind of wait for that call and that visit. To let them know that they're part of football immortality.
Yep. And in the meaningless game, Rabbi, were you about to give the score of that meaningless game?
I don't care. It's 16.
The Steelers are going to win 16-3. There's 4 seconds left on the clock.
I'm just shocked that you just didn't have any corollaries tonight over the fact that you have to realize that Dwayne Haskins is currently a Steeler right now. But I know we'll talk about that in the future. But yeah. One thing about Peyton Manning before I go in and finish this off for the night, the Super Bowl win seasons and the Super Bowl loss seasons kind of, if you look in the mirror of his Super Bowl win at the Colts in Super Bowl 41, kind of underdog story, the way they finally slayed the dragon of the Patriots in that AFC Championship game to their total domination of the Super Bowl. When they were the hunted in that Super Bowl 44 season, went 14-0, and then kind of fell apart in that Super Bowl against the New Orleans Saints. Just see the differences between those teams, especially those Super Bowls. And then the obvious is Super Bowl 48, when they had one of the best offenses of all time, and they got shellacked in MetLife Stadium. And then in Super Bowl 50, they had one of the best defenses of all time and looked really, really good. The Peyton Manning's career arc is a story within himself. And as he said before, if it weren't for Olivia Manning and the Manning brothers, Tom Brady would have 12 Super Bowls, and we can't have that. Very quickly, the Pete Rozelle winners of 2020, who is Joe Buck, who has called, I believe he's called 5 or 6 Super Bowls, and he has done a good job doing a sport where his dad was on radio for the better part of the 70s and 80s doing Super Bowls. And now he has really niched himself as one of the best NFL announcers out there. And I would say of all time, but I don't want to piss off anybody else who's watching the show. But hey, listen, we can get into
20 years with Aikman. They're starting their 20th year together this year.
That's insane. That's insane. And John Facenda is the one for this year's award. One of the voices. He is called the voice of God for a reason, and he is one of the best ever to ever voice over. It's going to be very fun to watch him get in.
Rabbi, you want to talk small world? John Facenda, his grandniece. I used to work with her.
Wow, that's insane. That's really funny. But quickly, I also want to talk about a couple of the people who aren't traditional. Bill Cowher, obviously, we talked about him getting in. Jimmy Johnson, I can't believe it took him this long to get in, with the way he revitalized the Dallas Cowboys and was really the ringleader of the circus that was the Dallas Cowboys of the 90s, and how he really put together one of the most remarkable turnarounds. He was 1-15. They were 1-15 when he took over, and they won back-to-back Super Bowls. It's really impressive. And I just got to also give love to, I can't believe I'm saying this, Paul Tagliabue, the man who kind of righted the ship of the NFL
that deserves it,
in the 90s and 2000s, and helped start growing the game into what is overall in the United States a dominant number one sport of the 4 major sports. A lot of people could say baseball was at that level in the 90s, but now it's the NFL by leaps and bounds. And he led the transition into what Roger Goodell has and hasn't done as commissioner of the NFL. You can't argue that this is not a profitable league. You can go against decisions, and that's what Tagliabue has been tasked to do, and he did a damn good job.
Yeah, I would say that about Tagliabue is that, but during his tenure as NFL commissioner, like labor peace between that and the Players Association. Remember, he was taking over a league that had 2 work stoppages and player strikes in the 1980s, in the 1989 season. And during his tenure, there were no work stoppages, no lost games due to a player strike. So Tagliabue and able to grow in the NFL brand, which just did a phenomenal job. And Jimmy Johnson, just one game that personified those 1990 Cowboys was 1993. They came into Giants Stadium with the division on the line and home field advantage, and was able to beat the Giants in overtime. And Emmitt Smith basically on one arm, willed that team to victory. Eddie Murray kicked the game with a field goal. I mean, obviously, Rabbi and I were Giants fans. That memory still stings a little bit, but you realize how great those Cowboys team were, particularly Emmitt Smith. I think that was a game that actually won my respect as far as him just being a Cowboy and recognizing that he was one of the greatest of all time. But yeah, Jimmy Johnson, the job he did, and particularly the Herschel Walker trade.
Thank you. I'm glad you brought that up. I was about to.
However, I got up.
started this entire Cowboy run and got all those draft picks. Like
One of
Emmitt
the
Smith,
greatest
Mark Marion,
heists in NFL trade history.
Dylan Charles
Any
Hilliard
trade
from the
history.
San Francisco 49ers. You think about Darren Woodson, all these guys that came, Russell Maryland, that
triplets
contributed to the Cowboys, being the team in the 90s and being able to go in the Candlestick in the 1992 NFC Championship game and beating them, the 49ers in their home field. So and obviously the blitz that the mauling that they gave the Buffalo Bills, Super Bowl 52, and to do it back to back. I know Cowboy fans that they got the good news that Jimmy Johnson will be part of that Cowboy Ring of Honor at some point, but it's gotta be really unfortunate if you're a Cowboy fan to see what could have been between Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson had that relationship been able to work out. They were able to win one more title with Barry Switzer, but that was really Jimmy Johnson's team.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And he was the architect of that roster that pretty much, with Michael with the triplets, Dawn, Alvin Harper, Kevin Williams, Moose, Stella Johnson,
Emmitt Smith.
I hated those guys as a Giant fan, but I had to be
As a Giant fan, actually, I just want to say you have respect. We have respect for what the Cowboys organization did, but it's kind of like being a Knicks fan. You can love the best team in the league, and the Cowboys, or in this case, it was the Bulls. You still hated the shit out of them.
Yep, 100%.
All right, guys. There's only a month left of unofficial summer, so go enjoy it. There's less sports on that. Go enjoy it. For Jay Kaplan and Anthony Strait, I'm Steve Rabinowitz. You know the socials. YouTube.com/OnTheSportsLines for archives of this damn show. Facebook.com/OnTheSportsLines for live streams. And ONTH Sportslines with that little @ symbol in the beginning if you want facts, figures, and the links of this show. Enjoy this summer of... Well, everything. Does sports ever actually stop this year?
No.
No.
Anyway, we'll see.
It's not going to stop.
No, it's not. We'll see you next time on the show. Good night, everyone.
Night,
Good
everybody.
night, everyone.